Well, welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we have made it. We are finally on the final book of the Unbroken Rain is Falling series by Shayla Black and Jenna Jacob. Now, if you have not listened to the first three review videos, those links are going to be available down below in the description section. So once you get caught up on those, come and join us as we dive into book 4, The Bond. We fast forward to February and we start off from Mason's POV. Mason's having a really hard time getting over everything that has happened. And so the idea that he can't really truly do those dominant things with her right now, he's listening to scenes and stuff like that. It makes him really upset because he knows Rain's not ready for these type of scenes, okay? And he doesn't want to make her upset, and yet he misses her terribly. So it's been what, 2 3 months, 3 months, and we know that the last person that tied her up was her father. I don't even like calling him that. We'll just say Bill Kendall was the last person that tied her up. So to me, why can't this is just me, shooting the breeze. Why can't that just be taken off of the table due to the trauma that she experienced with that? There are so many other things that you can do, but why can that just be taken off the table indefinitely until she asks you for that? Like if she comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to try it." Then I'm like, "Okay, cool." But I don't know. It's the idea that it's so important to you that it's like making you, it's part of the things that are making you miserable. It's just, I don't think it's that deep. That's my opinion. I don't think he should be getting that upset about something like that. It's like what she survived and has to live with the fact that she dealt with that and survived it. That should just be the focus. Oh, that right there for me, for him, is petty. That's just my opinion. He gets a video from Liam, which is Rain. She's in some sexy lingerie, but her cooch is out. Okay, and Liam messages, "Don't you wish you were here?" So he winds up going to his office and jacking off. He's biting off everybody's head because he's been on edge. Because we find out he's been staying as late as he can at Shadows, so that way when he goes home, he won't bother her. So this is just stupid and sounds like rejection. That's what it sounds like. Because you're not going to tell me so much is so important that you have to stay late every single night at Shadows when there's so many people there that can handle things. That's just garbage. So that's what he's been doing. We find out, and I know this isn't going good for either Liam or for Rain because it feels and sounds like, definite regression, but it's kind of like he's checking out of the relationship. Not that sex is everything because we know it's not, but he's intentionally trying to stay away as long as he can. So that, yeah, that's a problem. But he already effed up in the head. We already know that with him. So it's not that big of a shock. But anyway, Beck is asks him, how Rain is doing, all this type of stuff. But he also tells him, you need to see a therapist to deal with this shit that happened. You need to deal with this stuff. Because every time his thoughts go back to that fateful night, it's like it's all these bad things that happen and he gets so upset and then there's no outlet. It's a lot. So you need someone to talk to about this stuff. He of course really didn't want to hear because he never wants to hear when someone tells him the truth. And Beck even says this place basically runs itself. You don't have to be here. You need to go ahead and just go home. We switch to Liam's POV. Liam, of course, very much concerned with Mason's behavior. So when Mason sneaks in at about 2:30 in the morning, he confronts him and lets him know, "Are you even still in this relationship?" See, I knew it because I was like, it sounds like you're checking out. Because that's normally what people do when they don't want to be in a relationship. They stay away. They don't go home because home they don't want to be there. And I can't knock them for thinking that way. So he lets him know that Rain feels rejected by you, and I'm afraid she's gonna leave. And so he's like, "No, it's not her. I love her." Da da da. All this type of stuff. And he's like, "Is the baby okay?" And he's like, "The baby's fine. We sent you that video earlier because she wanted you to know that she wanted you. And instead, you ignored her. You said nothing. So she now thinks because she's pregnant, you no longer find her desirable." So he was like, "You got to forgive yourself for the fact that you couldn't save her. You've got to." We find out that they were able to find the bodies of her mom and her sister. We still don't know what happened to the brother. He was a Green Beret. You know, they figured that much out through Seth because Seth is a PI. But that's all. They don't have any more information on him. I believe he was the guy that was in that waiting room that was all big and bulky. I believe it's him, but we'll have to keep reading to find out. So Seth is still trying to locate him, but unfortunately, he's having a really hard time. But at least she knows he's not dead at this point. So Mason's like, I just got a lot of stuff going on with the, remodel and all this type of stuff at the club. Just, he lying, okay? That's not what's going on. And Liam's like, "Well, let me help you. How about I handle some of the stuff at the club for you so you can spend more time with Rain?" And he, of course, still makes an excuse like, "No, I need to be there, this and that or whatever." And then Mason had made a comment to Liam like, "You're the one that's the touchy feeling when you deal with those type of issues, not me." But it's kind of like you say you learned from what happened to Juliet, someone who didn't communicate, and now you demand communication out of Rain, but you don't feel you have to communicate. It's just, it doesn't seem balanced to me. It doesn't seem fair. And I feel like, yes, it's a dom submissive relationship, but y'all don't have a probably a standard one. Because Rain is a different breed. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm not saying you have to tell people at that very freaking moment, but he holds stuff in that's important for way too long until things fester and there's so many other like mutations from what he's done. And then he's like, "Oh, I can't believe it started all of that." Like, that's how it works with Mason. Mason needs therapy so bad. So the next morning, Mason gets up. He doesn't sleep in the bed with them, so he kind of peeks in, hears them talking, and he sees Liam having like this intimate moment with her where he's like putting cocoa butter on her stomach in different places, so she doesn't get stretch marks so bad. And he comes in, and Rain is cold with him, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And Liam had already told him that there were issues, and as always, he sticks his fucking head in the sand and he doesn't think, or he overthinks, and this is what happened. But thankfully, shout out to Rain. Rain was honest. She used her words and she was just like, "You know what? Honestly, what do you want? Because you don't seem like you want to be here anymore. Is it because of what happened to me with my dad? Is that why you don't want me?" And he starts clicking his head. "Oh, I've been stupid. You know, I've been rejecting her." knowing she has an issue with rejection. It's like, come on. So he did admit that he's holding guilt, that he couldn't save her, and that he was the reason it all happened because he stopped giving her dad a measly $2,000 a month. And she was just like, you know what? I don't blame you for that. You paying him all that money for all those years kept him away from me. You know, it kept me from not having the same fate as my mother and my sister. So I don't blame you at all. But again, it doesn't matter if she says it. If he's still holding the guilt and he clearly can't let it go, it's going to continue to be a problem. So she just let him know how much she loved him and she wanted him. And she was very hurt that he was staying, away. And we'll see, because I don't know. Because apparently it's been about 2 weeks since they've actually fucked. And then she says when they did have sex, it just kind of felt like he's not fully into it. It's like he's just kind of using her body. Like he could have been anybody at the club. So Rain then works up the courage to talk to them. She's like, I've been wanting to talk to you two about something anyway that I've been working through in therapy, and I think it's time I tell you. So basically, she told them what she had to do to survive, and she was afraid they wouldn't love her if they knew what she did. They let her know, we don't care what you had to do. You can tell us whatever. The only thing that matters is that you survived. That's it. That's all we cared about. And they were like, if he did f you, like it wouldn't matter. But she's like, no, that didn't happen. But she did tell him, the words she had to say to him, to all that type of stuff. So then they started, fooling around, sucking on titties, and I think maybe she's deep. Liam's, she's sucking him off, and then what's his name, Mason, is like, tells her he wants to tie her up. Why the fuck would you want to tie this girl up after she just explained to you what happened with the dad when she got tied up? And your first fucking thought process is, oh, I'm gonna ask to tie her up. How dumb. Some people like to say you try and take over a memory with the new one, and I get all that. But this was not the time. This just wasn't not the time. And sure enough, they tied her up. She freaked the fuck out and she yelled Paris. I don't know if we've ever heard her yell Paris, but she yelled out Paris. And then he felt bad, which he should have, because she wasn't fucking ready. And Liam knew it too. Even though Liam was like, just you tell us, if it doesn't work, you tell us. But then guess what happens? She starts feeling bad about herself because she can't do something that he wants. So she should have never been put in that position. Like I said in the beginning, she should be the one to come to you and say she wants to try that because of what happened to her. You should not be asking that of that woman. And that pisses me off with Mason, and it pisses me off with Liam because his dumbass didn't stick up and allow. And he allowed it. He knew it wouldn't work and he didn't say anything because he's actually been there with her more so than Mason's ass has. So that was shitty as fuck. We then switch to Rain's POV. She, of course, is about to start baking because guess what? That's what she does to calm her mind down. Liam comes in and she, of course, is blaming herself. He says, don't you dare do that. He has other issues that he's working out. And so he tells her all the information about what happened with Juliet because she didn't know that Juliet had been pregnant when she offed herself. And so he gave her all the tea about that. And at first she thought, so is this baby like a replacement for the one that he lost? And then she stopped thinking that pretty quickly. And she started to sympathize with him, understand, okay, I understand why this situation is a lot harder for him, being that he went through that. But She's on her thing of she's willing to fight for her family. She wants the baby and them. The baby's going to be here in 6 months. So it's got to get figured out. So she gets a call from the probate lawyer, and they kind of let her know that basically they're waiting to hear back from her brother, River. So he's alive. This rattles her. Um, she's kind of wondering, do I even want to know him? Because if he's alive and he stayed away all this time, that's racking up that whole rejection type of thing. And so Liam said something about his siblings, and she goes, wait, 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 what do you mean? Come to find out, he's got 6 sisters. And she's like, how could you never tell me that? You know? He's the youngest of them, and of the siblings. And she's just like, you are so cute. She went off on him, and I wasn't mad at her. She's like, you're so, you come at me with this thing of, I need to tell you everything. And a simple thing about your siblings, you don't even tell me. So guess what it makes her feel like? You're embarrassed of her. She's not good enough to meet her family. All of those things. It's like, when will they learn to stop trying to keep shit from this woman? You know? Because that's not okay. You want everything about me, but you can choose when you want to tell me some stuff. But if I think something, if I've done, I better tell you immediately. I think that's just trash. When they more, I feel like they're a little bit more fucked up than she. I mean, she fucked up, but they're fucked up too. And she's at least trying to work through her stuff. She's gone to she's continuously going to a therapist. Like, she wants to get through this. I don't see their asses doing that. Fuck that dumb shit. Y'all know you have issues. Y'all don't really want to work on them. You just want to tell her all the things she's fucking up with and just kind of go, yeah, well, he's dealing with some stuff. Where's them going to him and saying, you need to go see a therapist? You need to work these things out. If we're going to be a family, this stuff needs to be handled, because stuff is going on in your head. You're not allowing us to help. So if you want to be here, then you need to go and get help, or we won't survive. That's what I feel like they should be saying to Mason. And Liam need to take his ass and sit on someone's couch as well. And I don't think he's as bad as Mason, but I do think he's got some stuff probably too. So keep in mind, Mason already done left, okay, and went to the club. But after this conversation with old Rain, now Liam's like, well, I'm finna go. So he goes to the club. So he tells Mason what went down, and he tells him, like, you need to spend time with her tonight, you know? And so then they go into Rain's space because construction's going on. So they go in there to, like, get anything she might want. And there's a person in there. And there's a guy in there, and the guy says, look at Master Pervert. And who are you, her dirty John? So I'm like, this has got to be her brother. This has got to be. Because they described him as he looked like he was around 30, which would be about the age of her brother. So I'm like, this has got to be him. So Mason looks at him, sees those blue eyes, and they're the same as Rain's. This is River. So River's like, where's my sister? I'm taking her away from this filthy place. So he's been doing research, and he knows about the dead ex-wife. He knows about the pregnancy. He knows about Liam's other ex-wife, Gwyneth. He's been doing research. So in his head, what he sees is that this is a sex club. Rain is a sex worker, and this guy's been fucking her since she was a minor. They've been using her, throwing her around to people. Okay? So if this is what he thinks is happening, based on the research, it's kind of like, I can see him coming to that conclusion, but then I'm kind of like, did you not do any recon on your daddy? You know, like, wait a minute. So anyway, what winds up happening, they fight him and they drag him out, and He, of course, was like, this isn't done. He's going to get his sister. And so they, of course, find out talking to the head construction guy, he's not even on the crew. He just put on a vest. So they know he's coming back, right? They know, may not be to this club, but he's going to find Rain. And remember, the house is in her name. So if he's been doing research, he already knows that. So now they race back to the house. They're calling her phone. She's not picking up. They're panicking. They know they can't lie and not tell her about this shit, They've got to tell her what happened. Then they're also thinking like, we should have made her marry one of us. And they asked her to marry one of them, but she said she couldn't decide. She would never choose one over the other, so she's not doing it. But they're like, we need to revisit this legally. She needs to be bound to at least to one of them. So they're all freaking out. Girl is upstairs asleep. We switched to Rain's POV. She had had a dream of being with her man, and then when she woke up, they weren't there, but she went back to sleep. But this time when she woke up, they were like kissing on her, rubbing on her, and she was like, we're not just gonna be fucking. Like, that's avoidance. And her therapist had talked to her about that. She's like, no, we're gonna deal with this. So they tell her about her brother, but what I didn't like, they painted him out to be just like the father. They have no proof of him being a sick fuck, right? They don't. But because he accused them of things, now they're going to be the judgmental ones, right? And they're telling her he's dangerous. He's going to try and take you away from us and all this type of stuff, which he is, right? He said, I'm going to get my sister. He thinks she's in danger. So, it's not the same as the dad. But that's what they tell her. And they demanded that she not speak to him. And I don't like it. She needs answers, and they're trying to block her from getting them because they don't like what he said. And the idea that he wants to take her away. Again, ain't nobody dealt with the trauma of her being kidnapped. Liam and Mason are not in any form of therapy. So no one's dealing with that. And now we're transferring it to someone else who's trying to take her away from us. And now they go full beast mode. You see what I'm saying? So, again, this is what happens when you don't handle your shit. This is what's going to happen. But now you're telling her, you're demanding of her that she can't talk to her brother. I'm like, do y'all not know who this is? Do you really think Rain is going to do that? She's going to want some answers. But she did agree. She said, I won't do it. I will not communicate with him. But what she said was, I won't seek him out. So what that tells me is that when he comes around, she'll probably talk to him. She just won't go looking for him. She's just going to get technical with it. And I love it. And Rain kind of said to Liam too, like, what do you think? What would you do if the same thing happened with one of your sisters? And you found out all the stuff that you found out. What would you think? And he's like, I would want to fucking kill him, but I would at least listen. You're lying. You're fucking lying. No, you wouldn't. That's trash. I don't think he's like the father. I could be wrong, but I don't think he is. Remember the dad said to them he wanted to fuck her and all this type of stuff. That is not like what that brother is saying. He thinks she's in danger. She's with these much older guys. They're like in their mid-30s or whatever. And she's what is she, 23, 24, something like that? So he's looking at it as they're taking advantage of her. That's got to be what's happening. And then we don't know what proof he has, right? If he's been doing digging, what all did he find out? That doesn't look good. So they're wrong on this end. Liam and Mason. They're just dead ass wrong. They're being ruled by emotions out of anger, and it's trash. So, Mason did remember that he was the one that was in the waiting room at the hospital, and he's like, he's just been lurking. He's just been lurking, you know, all this kind of stuff. And again, you didn't really try to be civilized either. The minute he started saying stuff, you didn't try and be civilized. You went and y'all went crazy too. So it's just kind of like, nah, not doing it. But she gave them that she gave into that demand. So we shall see. So it's been a little bit over a week. They haven't left her side. It's driving her crazy. She used to having more freedom, going doing stuff for on her own, and they take her everywhere, so she can't do anything without them. So she's going to get a massage from a massage therapist that her doctor had recommended for her. And she's trying to convince him, like, she's also got to do grocery and shopping. And she's like, you've never done that. And he's like, that's fine, I'll go with you today. And so she's like, fine. But she has a slick mouth. So he's threatening her with a red ass. And she's just kind of like, whatever, because he hasn't really touched her anyway. Which is probably, not probably, but that's part of the problem as well. They get to the place. Mason says, he'll be waiting for, I think her appointment's probably like an hour or whatever. And she says something slick before she gets out. And she thinks Hammer's going to run behind her, but he doesn't. But she's thinking he is. She tells the reception, so I know what room to go in. And she goes and she says out loud, he won't be able to get me in here. Because she went, I want to say, in the bathroom, maybe. So then there's this big body that comes in and says, I knew he was hurting you. It's her brother River. So of course she's like, oh my gosh, River, like, what are you doing here? He's like, I've come to protect you and take you away from here. He's not listening to her either. This is very frustrating to her. She's got a lot of people not listening, right? So she's like, you haven't bothered in 12 years to care what I do. So why the concern now? He's like, I'm going to get you away from those sexual deviants and all this type of stuff. And he's like, I know what they did to you. And he's like, we're going to get rid of the kid. All this type of stuff. That kid's a product of rape. And it's just all this crazy shit. And so she's like, no, you've got it all wrong. But she doesn't say that. What did she say to him? She made that comment, but I'm like, that's not enough in the moment to get him to stop thinking what he's thinking, because here's my thing. But then again, I get it. This is someone you haven't seen in 12 years. It's a lot of thoughts and a lot of stuff. She's frazzled. I don't want to knock her too bad. I really don't. Because this is a fucked up situation, and how would you react to that? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I just kind of wanted her to say a little bit more. She sounds like someone who has that Stockholm syndrome, right? That these are their abusers, their captors, but yet she's now sympathizing with them. That's how she sounds. And that sucks, but that is how she sounds, unfortunately. But I kind of wanted her to at least say, you know, you didn't do anything. You didn't try and help me when Dad tried and ruin me. Like, I just wanted her to start saying some shit a little bit more, speaking some truths, and she didn't do it. She just kept trying to say, you don't understand, you understand. And I'm like, that's not going to work. This sounds weird. And, he doesn't understand the lifestyle. And he wasn't trying to understand it because in his view, you are a sex slave. That's it. Right? and he winds up scooping her up. Now she tried to fight him, but he's bigger and stronger. So he scooped her up, and we find out that he learned her schedule. He's been watching from a distance to know her schedule. But again, you got to remember, he's been overseas apparently. He made a comment about he's been in Afghanistan, and I guess he just got out not too long ago. He's a whole ass Green Beret. And I'm like, to him, this is a fucking mission. You know, it shit don't process the same. He has seen probably factual things to him, and he's gonna carry out this mission. We find out that apparently the massage therapist was sick with a cold. I'm like, was she, or did he pay her off to freaking stay home? As well as, you know, when it came to the receptionist, she wasn't doing nothing. So I think he paid her off too. So anyway, he gets her outside. She sees this big black van, freaks her out because she's thinking, no, not again. I am not going through this again. He covered her mouth. She bit the fuck out of him. She stomped him. She got away. He grabbed her again, but a good Samaritan, a guy from the gym that's next door, um, because she yelled out, help, help me. And the guy was like, what's going on? Like, she doesn't seem to want to be with you, you know? And he's like, she's just my sister. But the guy's like, it doesn't matter. She doesn't seem like she wants to be around you. And that was enough for her to get away and get back inside and lock the door so he couldn't get to her. But he yelled out to her that it's not over. So he might be a little deranged. Okay, I'm thinking he is deranged. I could be wrong. But I don't know. At this point, child, we don't know if he a deviant like the daddy. We don't know. Again, he hasn't said anything that makes me think he is, but we don't know. It's been so long. He also had called her Storm Cloud, which is his nickname for her, and it did soften her when they were in the bathroom earlier, because it was that familiarity of hearing that again after so many years. But it wasn't enough for her to stop fighting. I was thankful that she didn't. So she busses out and goes through the front, and Mason sees something's wrong, and he just grabs her. So they get back to the house. Liam's with her. We switch to his POV, and it freaks him out. The idea that she could be not laying here, it freaked him out. He is really freaking out internally. But, you know, he doesn't show stuff all the time. Mason's walking back and forth, panicking, calling for Seth, seeing if Seth can get more information on River. Seth apparently packed a to-go bag and left. So he apparently is working on a case because he's a private investigator. So, you know, we don't know what he'll be able to find out. Because remember, he used to be a cop and now he's a PI. So they're all freaked out, right? They were nervous. They've checked the doors 1,000 times, and she's gonna go bake. And at first Mason's like, no, we can't do that, you know, like they don't want to let her, he doesn't want to let her out of their sight after what happened. But they let her go down. And so Mason and Liam are talking, like, how are we gonna protect her? And that Mason's self-loathing is just at full at the forefront for him right now, because it's like, I failed her twice. I was right outside of the building and she was getting abducted. I mean, I get it a little bit because it's like it keeps happening. You're not terribly far away. But Liam pulls him out. He's like, we can't do that. We don't have time for that shit. We've got to deal with this because he's going to be coming back for her. And we've got to be prepared. Well, they get a call from Dean. I don't know if he's a sergeant, something. They get a call from him saying that River is in custody. So they're thinking like, oh, thank goodness. Like, They caught him, X, Y, and Z, right? Because they had called and said, he tried to kidnap her, all this type of stuff, right? But I'm like, that don't make sense. I don't buy that because he's a Green Beret. How the fuck the cops caught him? I don't buy that. Just doesn't work for me. Something else is with that because there's no way cops could have just got that man that fast. There's no way. They don't even know where he's staying. So how the hell did that pop off? I don't know, but we'll see. So anyway, they go in the kitchen and she's naked. She's baked sneakerdoodles and put them on a plate, presenting them to him and herself. She's ready to fuck. She needs a distraction. So she tells Hammer she wants him and he gives in. They wind up, they fucking, she starts sucking Liam off and then Liam's ear turns red and they immediately stop. And she's like, what is going on? What is going on? Doorbell rings. They're putting their clothes on. It is Liam's mom, Bryn, and his dad, Duncan. So she, of course, doesn't understand. Like, why was his ear itching? Well, that's what his ear does when his mom is around. So the mom is a very calm presence. She, she really likes Rain. It seems like right off the bat. Um, she's saying to Rain, we're going to be very close. So I'm like, is this bitch okay? What is going on? So he hadn't even told his parents that he moved to the West Coast. So they had come to New York to see him, and Seth had to tell him, "Oh, he's not here. He's moved out to California." And Seth brought them out. So the mom was about, she pulls Liam aside and she's like, "You're about to be tested. It's going to be okay, but you all have got to trust each other." And then the doorbell rings and it's a cop. And they're saying that they're there to arrest Mr. Hammerman for all kinds of charges. Kidnapping, sex with a minor, sodomy, like all kind of stuff. And they realize, oh, what's done happened? River, he must have came in there. He had to have come in there with information. Because that's a hell of a coincidence. He's apparently arrested, but now they're coming to arrest you. So then he winds up going with them. She's freaking out. But the cops just kind of said, they're not going to arrest him. They're like, you can come with us, or we can arrest you. So he goes out with them, so it's not as traumatic. And I'm thinking that brother had to have had something to do with this. He had to have. Well, unfortunately, Rain ass passes out. Hammer's down at the police station. He saw her passed out, so he's not worried about that. Okay. Then he's got to deal with these questions. So these two detectives come in. They tell him, the room's being recorded, all this type of stuff. He's like, I'll answer questions when my lawyer gets here. Sterling gets there, his lawyer. They come with the questions. Basically, they have proof. They have the money orders, the cash money orders of where he was paying Bill Kendall for his underage daughter. That's the theory, right? And apparently, because they have a witness that's inside the club, they told the cops that he was apparently pimping her out, all this type of stuff, told a whole bunch of fucking lies, and saying that he apparently raped her in public, all this type of shit. So he knows gotta be a Judas in his club, right? But he doesn't know who. And I'm like, this is going to be really interesting finding out who the hell this is. So they're trying to get him to crack. They're trying to push his buttons because they're trying to establish that he's a pervert, right? He's into underage girls. They know about his wife's suicide. Again, all this information, right? And he's able to leave, but he knows this shit is far from over. We then switch to Rain. She's with someone from the law offices of Sterling. They've gone down as well to the police station because they wanted to question them as well. Liam came with her, but he, of course, had to wait outside of the room. Female cop, she thinks Rain's a sex slave. She thinks the horrible things about her. And it's funny that she was saying to her, like, you liked being mauled by two big men and all this type of shit. And she was like, I think her name was Ruth. She says to the woman, I like rough sex. What does that have to do with anything? No, her name's not Ruth. It was something else. I can't remember the woman's name. But she was like, I like rough sex. What's the problem with that? You know? And then she asked the woman, have you ever been married? And the woman said twice. She said, so you know it's possible to love two people in a lifetime. I just happen to love mine at the same time. So they asked her about the rape scene that was done, which means someone's stolen footage from the club. She says, I've never been raped, from them. That's never happened. And she said, whatever happened, I assure you I enjoyed it. And I, when I want to take my power back, I do. And when I want to give it, I give it. I'm a submissive. I'm not a slave. The woman was like, you're a slave. Just still trying to tell her what she was. She's a little worried. She wasn't trying to say anything to incriminate Mason, but clearly these people want to nail him. Like, they're coming for him hardcore. Beck and Seth were the ones that picked up Mason from the station. He told them everything that happened. They took him home. We find out Seth is he's been, spending time with Heavenly, that nursing student, and that Beck apparently has taken her out on dates. So that's going to be the thing. And Mason does say, why don't you just do what me and Lisa did and just put her between the two of you, So he gets out, goes inside. She's relieved to see him. She's so worried. She's hugging him. And then they all have a really fun night. The parents are on the other side of the house, so they enjoy each other and they have their nice hard fuck. It was too long of a scene to be trying to go play by play with that shit. It was like 30 fucking pages of just the sex scene. We're good. They fucked. Afterwards, they get some Chinese food, but nobody's really eating that much. They wound up telling Mason about the fact, that they had to go down to the police station, and he got pissed about that. And he was like, I told you about my interrogation, and you all didn't tell me immediately. And again, you need to stop feeling like the minute something happens, they have to tell you at that very second. Just like you feel like you need to decipher when people need to hear stuff, give them a minute to do that too. Like, he annoys me with that bullshit. They tell him what happened in their interrogations. Mason, of course, gets upset because he feels like they're being dragged through the mud and it's his fault, blah, blah, blah. So then he went to go get in the pool because he got so upset, so enraged, he had to go get cooled off. And he has a anger issue that he really fucking needs to deal with. That shit is ridiculous. I want to know where it comes from. It's got to have a fucking root. And it was not about Juliet. This shit has to be from before. So hopefully the authors will tell us where this shit is coming from. Because what I tell you, it's just team too much the way he acts. So anyway, what's her name? Rain goes upstairs to take a bath, get ready for bed. And the doorbell rings, and it's Dean, and he comes and he lets them know that the two guys that are coming after him, those detectives are from Vice. They're ruthless. They don't see, if it's not straight lace, it's a pervert, it's a deviant. That's how they view life. It's black and white. That's it. And they're coming after you, and they're going to try and prove and that you did all these things that they're accusing you of. So what Dean did is he took the pictures from the evidence that showed what Bill had done to her, because some of them showed like pubic hair, whatever, which is where the underage bullshit comes from. So he's like, you got to destroy them. Any backups you have, any evidence, you're going to have to destroy it because they're going to serve some type of search warrant within the next few hours or few days. They're going to be here. And he's like, they're going to be at Shadows as well. So you gotta do it, because remember, she was 17 when she started living at Shadows. So he's like, if you talk to me, it'll have to be on a burner phone, because they're gonna subpoena your phone records, and my name can't be on there. I'm not a member of the club. I don't know you, and you don't know me, and we got to keep it that way for a while. So that's what they're gonna do. He also was able to get River's address, and he let them know, just like I fucking thought. River walked into that goddamn police station, and he walked in with a lawyer in a briefcase. Okay? So he's the person, apparently, that got this information going, I guess. So, again, everything that he shows, it does paint it as if Rain is a victim, and he is trying to save her. Unfortunately, he's gonna fuck them in the process, it seems. But I mean, this is why it's important to listen to people. This is exactly why, because he's thinking the wrong shit, and he done started a chain of events that it's like, your sister's pregnant and you putting her through all this shit. Like, so he gave them the address, but there's no phone number. And he's like, again, if you need to talk to me, call me on a burner. So they, of course, thanked him for the information. We switch to Liam's POV. It's the middle of the night. He wakes up, smells the teapot, and goes down. His mom's in the kitchen. They have a talk. So we learn a little bit more. So Liam has the gift of reading auras, and he's a seer. He has psychic abilities as well, but he suppresses it because he feels as if you use those gifts, it's like you have to live your life a certain way. And his mom is like, that's not true. It actually gives you an advantage because now you see all of the different possibilities of what could happen. So she kind of picked up on the fact that he had this when he was younger. A few things. He's never been bitten by a dog. And she's like, it's because of your aura. They can sense that you connect with them. One time someone had given her flowers, and he cried because he said, you're making the flowers bleed. So he's very connected to nature, animals, things like that. But again, he suppresses that stuff. But I think it's also he doesn't want to appear weird. I think that's it. And I think he also doesn't want to know what's going to happen, because then he can't just make choices like he would want to. I think that's basically what it is. So he got kind of pissed because he was like, well, Mom, why didn't you warn me about Gwyneth? The mom said, well, he said about what just happened, what went down in the winter with Gwyneth. And his mom said, I tried to warn you about Gwyneth before you married her, and you wouldn't listen to me. There's nothing I can do, because you opened that door. Once you married her, that was opening. I kind of look at it like the multiverse. Yes, I'm a Marvel fan and I like DC stuff too. But it's kind of like you open up this in the world of auras, right? Not multiverses, but just kind of that thing. You opened up now this new path. So now everything is now going to happen on that path because of this choice that you made, right? If you had never married Gwyneth would have never come to Los Angeles for you, because you never would have been married. But you married her. And then she sought you out for a certain reason. And that unfortunately put Rain in harm's way. It is what it is. You can't blame anybody. You made that choice. Just say it. And so the mom put it flat out to him just like that. And then the mom also told him, you need to kind of accept the fact Rain is thinking of a way to get to her brother. Because now what's in her brain is that River's gone to the police. I now have to go to River to stop to make him go and get this shit recanted, you know? And the mother's like, you need to allow her to do that. Of course, Liam's not up for that. He's like, no, he's dangerous and all this type of shit, you know? But the mom is just like, nah, that's what needs to happen. She needs to be able to talk to her brother. She's going to go through with it. She's already thinking of a way. So even if you tell her no, she's going to figure out a way to do it anyway. So why not be there for her so that she's protected? Since you think he's such a danger. She also told him you got to watch Mason because he will sacrifice himself for the two of you. She lets him know this is your family. This is who you're meant to be with, you know? And you got to fight for it. And the mom already knows the sex of the baby. She already knows whose baby it is, but she's not going to tell them because they don't want to know. So she doesn't say anything. The mother was trying to get him to understand to put himself in her brother's shoes, but he's not able to do that. And that's just kind of what it is. And like the mother was trying to get him to understand, he's trying to protect her. He is not trying to harm her. So the fact that you all keep saying he's a danger and all this stuff, you're being fucking dramatic. She's a danger to your life. He's a danger to your lifestyle, yes. Because he thinks you're doing things that you're not. Well, you're doing them, but it's just not the way. It's just not the way it's perceived, you know? So it was a good little conversation. Um, we'll see what happens. So Mason goes to Shadows and does exactly what Dean told him to do. Incriminating shit, get rid of it. All the stuff in his safe, because he had a contract with Bill. He never gave Bill a copy of it, but he had the contract and he got that together. He went to Rain's room and he actually found the necklace that she had gotten from her mom, and he kept that in his pocket. He was going to give that to Rain at a later date. He went in the security room. There's a new guy there. He's been there a few weeks, and I'm wondering, like, okay, I wonder if River planted this guy in there, and that's how he got information. Because we don't know what all information that, River has. We don't know. I'm curious. I'll come up with a theory quick. So the guy leaves and says he'll be back in 10 minutes, and then the guy comes back. It's less than that. Mason notices that the 2 dates, November 3rd and 4th, are missing. And that was the night that she had got punished, and then the night that he fucked her crazy, right? So I don't know what's going on, but it is an inside job. So this is a little freaky, because it's supposed to be a level of trust in this club, and whew, we don't know who's doing this shit. So this is not cute. So Beck was trying to clear out some stuff for him as well, and Beck is going to have Seth look into the security persons, his finances, anything. Just kind of see what's what. Then Mason goes to talk to his attorney, Sterling. And Sterling is like, right now everything's circumstantial. But the problem is, if they can prove anything, this is going to be a problem. So the first thing Mason said, actually, when he walked in, was that he wanted to put a trust that everything he had goes to Liam and Rain. The lawyer's like, okay, you're jumping the gun. He said, no, I need that done now. Just in case. The club, everything he has, he wants to put in a trust for them. We switch to Rain's POV. And we find out she snuck out of bed and she heard everything that Dean told Liam and Mason. And she has decided that she is going to go see her brother, just like Bryn had said. And she's decided she's going to get Seth and Beck to go with her. And so later that morning, um, she talks to Liam about it. And she's like, Seth and Beck are they can come with me. I'll be safe. Because when she got up, I want to say Seth and Beck were already there. Because Brent had called them and said that they needed to come over. He fought him. Eventually, he relinquished. And he, of course, you all better keep her safe. You better, period. So, Seth, Beck, Rain. They arrive at where River's staying. Bam on the door. He comes. It starts off the same way. Him being slick mouth. Are these more Johns? Same crap. Okay. And then eventually she got pissed and she started like kind of cussing him out. And he finally started to listen. So she starts from the beginning and she tells him the whole story. He starts to get it, but it was still hard for him to look at the whole thing because he did see her kneel in front of Liam and Mason. And so for him, it's just like, that's weird, right? But again, he doesn't understand the lifestyle. He's not in that lifestyle. So it's still weird. So she tells him, I am not asking you, or I don't need your approval for my lifestyle. That's not what this is about. I just need you to stop and recant your statement because what you're doing is ripping apart the family that I have, you know? And when she describes all the things, remember, because I said she went through the whole shebang of how much Mason helped her and what he's done for her. And like the family she has now, you're ripping that away from her. And he, of course, was like, still not understanding. He had heard from the father that, which is where he got the proof of the money orders, that came from the dad. And the dad told him that that's what the payments were for. That Mason was paying for sex with Rain. But what he knew, I guess, he knows the dad's awful, but again, it fits the narrative so fucking well that it makes sense of why he believed the dad as well, you know? So she kind of told him that, listen, you need to fix this. You need to recant your story. She also told him about what was happening with Rowan and the mom. So we find out on his part, he started asking too many questions about that mom, and that's why he got thrown out. It was a couple of reasons. It was because of that, but it was also because he got too strong for the dad. The dad couldn't just beat him up anymore, and that's why the dad put him out. So he didn't leave, the dad put him out. So when he got put out, he, had to survive. So he started fighting for money. And he almost killed a guy. So he got arrested, got thrown in juvie, and the judge told him, when you turn 18, you got two choices. You're either going to prison or you can go into the service. He, of course, chose the service. So up until 73 days ago, all he has known is command, and you look at the facts. And what the facts show you, that's what it is. And so he didn't look at it from any other perspective because all he's known is kind of one way. And you combine that, talking to the dad showing the proof, the physical evidence with the money orders, it all lined up. Okay? So she let him know, fix it, because that's the right thing to do. But what I do like about her is she was kind of like, I would, if you're going to do right, if you're going to do the right thing, I would like to have you in my life, but I don't have to have you there. I have gone 12 years without you being in my life. So if you're not going to do right, or if you're going to have this judgment about my lifestyle, like, she's totally fine not having him in her life. And I do like that, because a lot of times people do get hung up on the fact that, oh, these are, this is my blood, and I have to have my blood, someone that's of my blood in my life. But if they're not going to treat you right, then you don't. Thankfully, we know her mother didn't leave her. We know her sister didn't just abandon her. Uh, River kind of did. Like, he got put out, but he never came back to, like, check on her. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So if she kind of has a little bit of an abandonment with him, abandonment issue with him, I'm not gonna knock her, cause he kind of did. So while she was explaining, he of course was coming with the rebuttals, but Beck and Seth, you know, they're like her brothers. They really will do anything for her, and they'll even go against Liam and Mason if it means it's the best interest of Rain. So I feel like, again, they're not blood, but they treat her as if she was. So she still has these people that are like her big brothers that will do anything in the world for her. So she has a family. She really does. So I like that she wasn't, begging and pleading with him to be in her life. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want her doing that. It was like, do the right thing. If you do the right thing and you have good intentions, hopefully we'll have a relationship. If you can't do it, then we won't. And I'm fine with that. So she says her piece, and she tells him, if you're serious about doing the right thing, then you need to follow me back to my house and we fix this. We switch back to Liam and Mason. Mason's flipping out. He can't believe Liam allowed her to go, X, Y, and Z. He's still fussing when Rain comes in. He, of course, scoops her up, kisses her, but smacks her on the ass to let her know she's in trouble. She is going to get a punishment for this. She told him, you were in trouble, and it was because of my family. Like, how can I not try and help you? And he's just like, it's our job to protect you. You can't control your family. And she's like, yeah, but you're asking me to do something and that doesn't make sense. If you're my family, why wouldn't I protect my family? Like that, it doesn't work just one way. And that's kind of where they're doing the whole dom submissive thing. But it's like, this is serious trouble that you're in, and you're telling her, oh, just sit back and relax, we take care of it. Yet you all didn't know where he stayed. You didn't know until that previous that night, I guess, when Dean brought that information over, and that's when you found out, and you hadn't made a plan. But she made one pretty fast. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just think sometimes you have to look at the situation, and it's easy to tell her, oh, don't do this, don't do that. Now I get it, she did promise them she wouldn't seek him out, but you're in trouble. Remember, she made that promise before she knew you were in trouble. She didn't know this hadn't happened yet. And so once the circumstances changed, oh no, it's different now you can't tell me to sit back and not do something. And he should know this as well, because he's still blaming himself for the fact that she was kidnapped and all this type of stuff. And I'm sure Liam has some guilt with that as well, because it was his ex-wife who gave her up. You know what I'm saying? So they both have guilt about things, and then it's like, but then she's not supposed to have any guilt. It just doesn't make sense. because these are normal human reactions, in my opinion. And you're telling her not to have them. No, that's not how it works. It is Valentine's Day, so they give her a bracelet and it's got some charms on it, but it also has the charm from the necklace that her mother had gave her. Um, and she of course absolutely loved it. We found out the mom, she gave it to him when she was like 7 years old. It got broken the night that her dad beat her up. And so then she gives them these keychains and it said like this really beautiful thing on them. It was engraved. Then she tells him like, I need you all to have an open mind. And I said, oh shit, River here. So River showed up. He comes in. They lunge at him. Thankfully, Beck and Seth were there to stop him because they had no reason. It's like they weren't listening at all. They're just flipping out. So eventually, Liam's mom, Bryn, comes in and she tells them, why don't we all sit down and have a talk? She's like the calm one. And Rain is saying the same thing. You're accusing him of not listening and now you won't. So finally, River talks. River apologized. He said, I'm sorry. You know, I'm seeing how you are with her. You clearly both love her. I'm sorry I believe what my dad told me. X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. It was a whole thing. And he said, you know, he would go and recant his story. That they barely calmed down, okay? They're still pissed off. He what did he say? River had said something like, you know, I would like to have my sister in my life. You know, she's the only family I have left. So, River, I'm sorry, not River. Rain asked River before he left if he would go with her to her mother and her sister's graves. She had never been. And Liam in his head was thinking we should be there to be, you know, we should be the ones there with her to get her through this emotional thing. But I'm just kind of like, bitch, that was not your mother. That was not your fucking sister. You know? It's like you can be there, but it takes on a whole nother level with the person. He's just finding out this stuff about his dad and what happened to his mother and his sister as well. He didn't know about the abuse that happened to Rowan. He had no idea. Um, he suspected something happened with his mom, but he never had any proof. So he should be there with her. Again, we're looking at it from the lens of you tried to take her away from me. That's all they see. So that's what irks me with one track minded people, and then they get mad at other people that are one track minded. Bitch, you're both one track minded. That's the problem. You won't look at it from any other way. Thankfully, they chilled out. He never said it. These were just Liam's thoughts. Because I was like, that's not fair to her. She needs to do this however she chooses to do it because it's her fucking grief. It's her loss. You may try and take on that, but just like you keep telling her she can't do it for you, you can't do that for her either. So allow her this. Again, they're gonna come with her, I'm quite sure, because you know they still don't trust River. They don't even think he's gonna really go and recant his story. But again, I'm glad Liam kept that bullshit in his head and he didn't say it out loud.